Welcome to AI Podcast. I'm Daniel, and with me is Maya. Today, we're turning our explainer into a conversation about a widely discussed study in human-AI interaction, generative agents, also known as interactive simulacra of human behavior. Ready to dive in?
Absolutely. I skimmed some headlines, but I'm hoping you can give me the short version first.
TLDR. The authors show that language model-driven characters behave more believably over time when you give them three things: a memory of what's happened, moments to reflect and turn memories into higher-level insights, and a plan for what to do next. They put these agents in a small virtual town for a couple of simulated days, and without micromanaging them, the agents shared information, formed relationships, and even coordinated a Valentine's Day party that people actually attended.
So it's not just chat responses, it's a running life with habits and social interactions. Got it.
Exactly.
Who's behind the study?
The work was led by Joon Park at Stanford University, with Michael S. Bernstein and Percy Liang also at Stanford, and collaborators Carrie J. Kai from Google Research and Meredith Ringel Morris from Google DeepMind, along with Joseph C. O'Brien from Stanford. It was published in 2023.
Okay, Stanford at the helm. What problem were they trying to solve?
Think about non-player characters in games or scripted chatbots. They can seem lively in a short scene, but they usually struggle with long-term coherence. They forget what just happened, contradict themselves, or fail to behave like members of a community. Even modern language models, powerful as they are, often respond one turn at a time and don't naturally maintain a lived history. The gap here is believable, persistent behavior in a social world, remembering, learning, and acting in ways that make sense across hours and days, not just a single prompt.
Right now, most systems are great at sounding smart for a moment, but not at being consistent people over time. So what had previous research tried, and why wasn't that enough?
Prior approaches include rule-based behavior trees, hand-tuned scripts, and newer autonomous agent frameworks that chain prompts or tool calls. Those can work for narrow tasks, but they break down in open-ended social life. Rule-based systems feel rigid, and pure prompting often forgets earlier context or improvises details that don't fit. We lacked a practical recipe for agents that carry memories forward, reason about those memories, and update plans as events unfold.
Makes sense. So what's the big idea that unlocked this?
The authors wrap the language model with three layers. First, a memory stream. Every observation, conversation, and plan is written down as text, like a diary for each agent. Second, a retrieval mechanism that chooses which memories to bring back by weighing relevance, recency, and importance. Importance means the agent gives each memory a quick, significant score so big moments don't get lost. Third, reflection and planning. At intervals, the agent pauses to reflect, synthesizing higher-level inferences, and then plans at multiple timescales, from a day plan down to the next few minutes. Those reflections and plans go back into memory, closing the loop.
So it remembers, prioritizes, then steps back to make sense of things before moving forward. How do they keep retrieval reasonable when the diary grows?
That's where relevance, recency, and importance work together. When the agent needs context, it pulls a small set of memories that score highest across those signals. Recency decays over time, importance keeps big events alive, and relevance keeps recall on topic.
Nice. How did they test whether this actually produces believable behavior?
In two ways. First, controlled evaluations with human judges. They compared the full system to simplified versions that removed reflection, or removed both reflection and planning, or removed memory, reflection, and planning altogether. They also included a human-written baseline where crowd workers authored agent responses. Judges rated which outputs felt most believable across capabilities like self-knowledge, recalling past events, planning, reacting to new information, and reflecting.
So, ablation testing. Turn off one component at a time and see what breaks.
Exactly. Second, they ran an end-to-end simulation in a small town often called Smallville. There were 25 agents living their lives for 2 in-game days. The team seeded a high-level goal around a Valentine's Day party and watched how information spread, what relationships formed, and whether people showed up.
I have to ask, did it work? Did they get a real party, or at least a plausible one?
Plausible is the right word. Agents talked about the event, invitations spread through conversations, people coordinated times and places, and several turned up at the venue when the time came. This wasn't hard-coded choreography. It emerged from memory, reflection, and planning interacting with the environment.
And in the human-judged tests?
The full architecture was rated more believable than versions with pieces removed. As you strip away reflection, then both reflection and planning or remove memory altogether, ratings drop. The full system also outperformed the human-written baseline overall in those categories. The takeaway is that each component, memory, reflection, and planning, adds measurable value to believability.
That's encouraging. But is believability just good acting rather than good thinking?
The authors are careful about that. They're not claiming human-level cognition. The claim is sustained, coherent social behavior that humans judge as plausible. Believability is subjective, but it's the right first bar for agents that live alongside users. They also check agent memory logs to reduce the chance that flashy dialogue is fooling people, verifying that statements match what the agents actually experienced.
Got it. What about the rough edges? Where did the system stumble?
A few places. Agents can embellish or misremember, especially when similar events blur together. Because the world state is simplified, they sometimes violate social norms, like wandering into a shop that should be closed. There's also a politeness or cooperativeness bias that reflects how instruction-tuned models behave. And reproducibility is tricky. Language models are stochastic and APIs evolve, so reproducing the exact same story requires careful control of seeds, prompts, and model versions.
So it's a good first step, but not a perfect mirror of real life. Any concerns about scale or sample sizes?
The town is deliberately small, and the simulation runs for only a couple of in-game days. That's enough to show diffusion, relationships, and coordination. But it doesn't guarantee the same dynamics with hundreds of agents or over longer periods. The controlled evaluations use human raters, which fits believability, but those judgments are still subjective and context-dependent.
And what about the underlying model? Was it one of the familiar chat models?
Yes. The system runs on a widely used chat-style model from that period. The architecture is model-agnostic in spirit, but the behaviors they report are tied to the model they used. Upgrading the base model could change the flavor of the town, potentially richer dialogue, but also different biases.
This is fascinating. Before we wrap, can you summarize what this study adds to the field?
First, it offers a practical recipe. Combine targeted memory retrieval, periodic reflection to synthesize new insights, and multi-scale planning to get agents that feel coherent over time. Second, it provides evidence that those pieces matter via ablation comparisons and a live social simulation. And third, it shifts the goal from sounding smart once to living plausibly in a world over time.
I like that framing. If you were advising a team building social agents, what would you suggest as next steps?
A few directions. Make environments richer and norms clearer so agents don't accidentally break social rules like business hours or private spaces. Improve memory with learned retrieval and better forgetting so diaries don't bloat, and design safe ways for agents to share memories. Evaluate beyond believability by checking task performance and realistic social network changes. Invest in reproducibility tooling with fixed seeds and version-locked prompts. And build ethics by design, with guardrails against manipulative uses and cues that remind users these are simulated characters.
That last point really matters. People can form attachments to characters that feel alive, and that can be powerful for good or bad.
Exactly. The paper flags those risks and encourages thoughtful deployment. The goal isn't to trick anyone, It's to build agents that are helpful, comprehensible, and aligned with user expectations.
Let me play back the essentials. We're talking about a Stanford-led study by Joon Park and colleagues that turns language models into believable town residents by giving them memory, moments to reflect, and concrete plans. In tests, that architecture looked more believable than simpler setups, and in a small 2-day simulation, the agents spread news, formed ties, and coordinated a party. It's promising but early, with occasional memory slips, social norm mistakes, and the usual reproducibility and bias questions.
Perfect summary.
If someone wants to explore this at home, what should they look up?
Search for generative agents and you'll find the paper, write-ups about the town simulation, and the public code released by the authors. Skimming the memory logs is especially eye-opening.
I'll do that. Thanks, Daniel. This was clear and, honestly, kind of charming. I didn't expect to care about simulated neighbors, but here we are.
That's it for today's AI podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with a colleague who's thinking about agent design. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Maya. Thanks for listening.